folks, I'm Tom Basso. Welcome to Week in Review. Week in Review is a video that we do each week where we take a look at all the reviews we did last week and kind of give you quick snippets of what basically we said in our review. And then if you want to know more, you can go watch the full review to find out more. So let's start.
Hey folks, welcome back to another Week in Review. This week I was able to do 6 different kinds of videos for you. The first one was, hey, Throat Punch Lunch. The next episode of that came out on Wednesday. It was called Musical Contributors because we had some new contributors. We had some contributors that were out, that were at conventions and life getting in the way and that type of stuff. And then we still had a good, solid core group of contributors to publish a show for you. So go check that out. It was a lot of fun. We also were able to do another Battling Brushes with Rob and I. We finished up the painting for Cry Havoc with Rob taking care of the human faction and myself taking care of the machines faction in this one. So pretty cool stuff there. Go check that one out as well. Also was able to do a top 5 themeless games video for you. Now these are themeless games that I still enjoy playing. So you know me, I'm a sucker for theme. I love theme. I love sinking my teeth into theme. So if a game that doesn't have theme is something that I really enjoy playing, that should tell you something. So go check out that list, top 5 themeless games that I still enjoy playing. Then I was able to do a review for Fight for Olympus. This is a game from Matthias Kramer that Mayfair Games put out, and it's a 2-player card game where you're battling over different battlefields in Olympus and Greek mythology, and it kind of fell flat for me, to be honest with you. But go check out that review to see why. And I was also able to do 2 expansion reviews. The first one was for Mysterium's Hidden Signs, and ironically so, this one's kind of flown under the radar. Not a whole lot of buzz about Hidden Signs, but it's a neat little expansion. Doesn't change any of the rules for you, but it just gives you more of the character cards, more of the location cards, more of the vision cards. So it's just a neat little expansion. Go check it out. And then I was also able to do a review for Zombicide Wulfsburg, the expansion for Black Plague. Now this one does throw some new rules changes into it. Not really changing the rules, just adding a few new rules. The wolves are very cool, and the wolf abomination, well, enough said. It's a wolf and an abomination mixed. Very nasty, but very cool. Also some cool little line of sight changes with the tower tiles that are in there now. So very cool expansion. Go check that out as well. And that is it for me. See you on the flip side.
Hey everybody, Z Garcia here. Last week I reviewed 5 games. Let me show you. I reviewed Encounter's Shadowrun, which is a pretty simple dice game, push your luck game, which then had a bunch of rules and text and rule exceptions and things sort of added on top of that. And for me, it was enough of a detractor that I found the game to not be very fun to play. I also reviewed Simon's Cat, which is a very simple card game. Really light, Uno-style card game. Now this one is straightforward and simple enough that the target audience, I think, will get a kick out of this one. So if you're someone who enjoys that style of game, I think you might like this. It works well. It's not necessarily for me, but I can appreciate the little design here. I also reviewed Gobble Stones. Gobble Stones is a tile laying game. Think sort of like Scrabble, but without the words part. Just playing tiles to match colors. I like it. I think it's got a couple of production issues, which I wish were not a problem, but they are. But the gameplay itself is nice and relaxing, and I think it's good for families. I also reviewed Sator here, or the whole name, which I'm not going to say. This is sort of a traversal game. You are moving around, shifting these corridors, doing all sorts of things. It's very puzzly. It also has what I think is a little bit of an identity crisis. It wants to be dark, but it wants to be cute. It wants to be puzzly, but it wants to be themed. So I wasn't a huge fan of this one, unfortunately. And then lastly, Evolution Climate, my favorite game that I reviewed this week. And this one is an expansion to Evolution. The one I looked at in the video was actually the big box, which is the game and the expansion. And it's excellent. I think Climate gets folded into Evolution very smoothly, seamlessly, and it does enhance the base game that I was already a fan of. So I would recommend you check out Evolution Climate. And that's it for me. I will see you next time.
This week on To The Point, I reviewed Mystic Vale. It's a cool deck builder with this gimmicky thing where you get to take clear cards and you slide them into sleeves and you get to customize each card. I gave it about 2 schmeckles out of a yogurt, and I think you should check it out.
All right, so let's take a look here at the games that I reviewed this past week. It was kind of there were some decent games. There was nothing amazing last week for me, but there were still some very good games. Well, we'll start with the bad ones. Dino Meal. This is a game in which you're trying to pull eggs out of a dinosaur's nest before the dinosaur comes down and gets you. It's okay, but it just doesn't mechanically work that well, so this one's a big pass for me because the mechanics are just problematic. Baba Yaga, this is a card collecting game where you're using different cards to cast spells. It sounds interesting, but the play is kind of boring and you kind of just discard cards and hope you get the stuff you want. Googly Eyes, this is a silly little game about drawing, but you know, that's basically what it is, a silly little drawing game. Kumo, this is a abstract strategy game with sumo wrestlers, and you're trying to maneuver around and push this big pillar of balance off your side of the board. You're rotating the board, doing different actions. It's interesting. I don't know how long it will hold my interest, but it does do some unique things, and your workers are cubes, and you can change their facing to give them special powers. Then we have Shaky Shark. This is simply just use a fishing line, basically, to get things out of a shark's mouth before it slams shut. Silly fun, but definitely for kids. Colony. This is from Bezier Games. This is a game in which you are building a colony of cards in front of you. These cards are gotten by rolling dice, drafting these dice, using those dice to purchase cards, which give you special abilities regarding dice or more dice. It is a very solid game, if I felt a bit too straightforward for me, but it was a pleasant time overall and playing it, and it has kind of a unique in the future theme, Colony. Let Them Eat Cake is a voting game in which you will vote like probably 50 times over the course of the game for other players. You're voting on who's in charge of the French Revolution. You're going to vote sometimes on who's going to be beheaded, who runs the guillotine, who hands out the cake, who decides whether the cake is good to eat or not. And you vote over and over and over again. It's silly fun, maybe a little bit too long, but I enjoyed it. Masmorra, Melody and I took a look at this one. This is from Kumo or not. It is a dungeon crawl game based in Arcadia. From Arcadia Quest. It is okay. It's good. It's fun. Doesn't really offer anything new. The monsters are dice, which some people think is cool and unusual. I thought it was kind of a disappointment. I'd rather have little miniatures of the monsters going around. And it has a Yahtzee-style mechanism to fight off the creatures. So it's a very solid game, just doesn't really stand out in the crowd. What's in Ned's Head? This game, which is post-Game of Thrones Season 1. Okay, not really. But in this game, you're sticking your hands inside this cloth head and trying to feel for a specific object. A little gross maybe, but kids love it. Great tactile game. New Bedford. This is a worker placement game in which you are going to put workers out, get resources, then send whaling boats out to bring in the whales, where you're drawing stuff from a bag. A very solid game, unfortunately, needs its expansion to be as good as it could be. This rating here, 6.5, goes up once you add in the expansion. With the expansion, it's going to go up to a 7.5. Minuscule is a bug racing game in which you are maneuvering bugs around in different positions as they race because you are secretly wanting a couple of them to win. But fun. It works for families and it has some really nice artwork in it. Dragon Racer, another racing game. This time you're racing dragons. And this one you're going to be using a drafting as you would draft cards and then play these cards to power up your dragons to move around the board as quickly as you can. Amazing artwork and a solid racing game underneath that. The Council of Blackthorn. This is a game in which you are an advisor to the king. The king's getting old. You want to be the next person in line. So you're trying to discredit everybody else and get as much support in different factions as you possibly can so that they will then vote you in as the next king. Entertaining and certainly cutthroat and works really well with nice components. And then I already mentioned the New Bedford expansion. If you get New Bedford, you must get this expansion. It adds more buildings and a 5th player, both of which you could just jump in right in and use from the very, very beginning. I also took a look last week at the years 2012 and 2013. 2012 was amazing. Go check out that year for sure. And we did top 10 list of unique games. Throat Punch Launch came out last week. There's a lot of different videos that were out on our channel. Anyhow, thanks so much for watching Week in Review. I'm your host, Tom Vassell. Until next time, this has been The Dice Tower.